My wife and me, we're both, I wouldn't say strange, but we're just not like a typical kinds of people. Some people come into this house and they find it strange. Some people find it and they love it.
In our previous episode on Design Seat, we have covered properties of interesting building materials that comes in different shapes and sizes, which results to an extraordinary outcome that represents the design and architecture language. My name is Alex Lee, and today's episode on Design Seat, we will be sharing the story of a single-story terrace house being transformed into a 2.5-story concrete jungle with an excitable character. Upon entering the property, a single-story high concrete slide summons your arrival, creating an exhilarating first impression to the identity of this transformed 2.5-story home. So before we begin, if you're not subscribed to us yet, do click on that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell right beside the subscribe button to stay in the loop of more of our compelling episodes.
My name is Jay. I've lived in Malaysia for over 10 years. Previous to living in Malaysia, I was from the US, where I was born and raised. In my initial career, I worked in engineering, so I don't really approach home design, I think, from an artistic perspective necessarily, but more from centrally and efficiency perspective.
Most conventional terrace houses would start with the general spaces and the kitchen on the ground floor, followed by all the bedrooms tucked upstairs. The owners Jay and Cheng Yi envisioned the layout to this property in a whole new perspective, tucking 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a laundry space at the ground floor, which allows for an open floor plan to be pervaded on the upper level.
The middle room lacked ventilation. I wanted the whole way to be accessible so that we could move air through the house and not keep it so musty, right? Also helps to ventilate the bathrooms, because the bathrooms, when you compartmentalize them like that, it gets a lot of humidity builds up after you take a shower. So we can just open a door and the humidity just moves right out. The house is kind of an extension of who you are as a person, so I'm an introvert. Yeah, I did want my house to not be noticeable, like from the outside, and so, gray, same general shape as a typical, intermediate lot house like this, and so I didn't want people to think it was all that special on the outside. A lot of this house too was just a learning experience from living in Malaysia as well. Like in our initial condo, we had electrical problems. We had to hack the wall to get to it. It made a mess, and it never looked quite the same either. And so that's why I put conduit piping on the outside so that we'd never have to hack a wall ever again. Same thing with the plumbing, why I put the bathrooms stacked on top of one another. I didn't want to deal with plumbing issues or complicated piping and whatnot. So I wanted it to be simple, because I do think simple things can be beautiful, right?
As you walk alongside the concrete slide moving up to the first floor, a glorious glimpse of the double volume open space makes you question if you are really in a terrace house. With no walls dividing any of the spaces on the first floor and an eccentric view of the double volume slanted ceiling with exposed roof truss makes the entire home feel spacious and bright. Most of the terrace houses we've featured comes with an open courtyard in the center of the home. This is to allow natural lighting to penetrate into the property, which naturally becomes darker because of the insufficient lighting, as there's no openings on both sides. But in this property, there is no courtyard because the owners wanted to maximize every inch of the interior space, yet the interior is fairly littered. Let's hear what the architect has to share about this.
My name is Eddie Choi. I'm the architect for the Concrete Jungle house. The owner's intention is not to have any internal courtyard or air well. So how to actually bring in lights into the interior space. So the house orientation is actually facing from the east to west at the front. So what we did was just doing a very simple split between the two levels of roof. By having this split roof, the light trough that we have, the lights is only coming from not directly, but actually is from the north to the south. So that actually creates a very natural daylight throughout the day. We actually create different kinds of expressions of steel that looks a little bit more bold. As we bring up to the upper levels, these structures of the elements, we actually reduce it to smaller elements to actually lighten up the space above, so that as it goes up, the whole space will look more translucent.
My favorite detail of this project would be the intricate steelworks. Looking at the refined workmanship of the steel handrails, the steel roof trusses that highlights the beauty of the double volume, and even the steel customized doors and door frames.
We actually want to create a kind of a light, yet it's like a floating effects of the staircase that actually links between the two floors. Just by repeating a very light this vertical rail without any balustrade, that means the whole steel structures will be strengthened as one, and at the same time it actually becomes the structures to actually ties between the cantilevers RC steps. When we design the layouts on the connections between the foyers up to the master bedroom, we actually don't do a conventional wall with just door. We actually provide the fully open slide and fold doors, so that they can actually utilize that areas to be blended together with the master bedroom. As the owners have a very clear intentions of open kitchen, by repeating the same concepts of the mesh that we have initially at the yard to be repeated at this wet kitchen area, so that this wet kitchen will be always ventilated, so it's like smells can be dispersed out, and it also can create a better ventilation to the entire area.
Bye, Mom. Freddie, you back?
For many other people, maybe the slide is maybe not something they'd put as a design element in the house, but for me, I wanted it to be a good experience for him to grow up in. And I also wanted him to grow into an adult without having the kind of like typical or cliche expectations for what a house should look like or what life should be like in general. The slide is just one manifestation of that. The pandemic, I think, was really quite harmful in like little ways, in the way that you just kind of stay in one place, you just do the same thing day after day after day. I didn't want that to be part of like what my son's, at least early life, looks like. Childhood should be something that goes beyond that, right? So, I started to try to think about different ways I could change my son's life inside the house in little ways, right? Ping pong table was just one idea. Surprisingly, he actually took to quite well. I wasn't sure he was going to enjoy it or not, but yeah, he really liked it. The initial design of the mezzanine wasn't going to be like this. And then Eddie was the one who came up with the idea for reformulating the mezzanine in its current shape.
The early intention is to have a mezzanine floor. They intended to use that space as a workshop for their future use. But meanwhile, their kids are still small, so basically they currently is using that as an entertainment yet, like rock climbings and so forth. As Jace and Chingies have the recycling habits, a lot of items they have pick it up before we actually fully demolish the whole house.
For us, I look at a door and they're gonna throw away a perfectly good door. I'm like, wow, why send this to the dump? We could do something with this, right? So one door we turned into a coffee table. The other door we painted yellow because my wife and I had this idea a long time ago that we would have a front door that was yellow. So we kept the old door, painted it yellow just to remind us, I guess, of an idea we had together. Initial state of the house was like avocado green, and it had like these gold coins, Chinese coins, as the grills. When my son saw the gold coins, his eyes lit up. He's like, I want this grill. And so we made a bet out of it.
When the authorities were changing the street signs, and I just asked what they were going to do with it. They said they normally discard it, so I asked them if we could have one, and they gladly obliged. So that's why there's a road sign here. So please don't go out and steal one.
We believe that architectures can create a better environment in terms of space quality for people to live in. This project has given us the opportunities to transform the house in a more fun and memorable space, which is the owner's intention.
The concrete jungle is a whimsical and collaborative work of art. The beauty of it is seeing how the family's energy gives life to such an industrial-looking home. When I first stepped into the property, I couldn't help but question how livable living in the concrete jungle could be. Looking through images, it may seem a little crisp, but fascinating characters of the family complements this house transformation perfectly. The charisma of the family gave the newly transformed home a soul. The concrete jungle isn't just a house transformation. It is a transformation that questions the perspective of the norm, breaking boundaries, creating excitement in a home, rejuggling spaces and levels in a conventional terrace house. If you'd like to watch more contents of such, don't forget to subscribe and click on that notification bell. We are also on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. Support us there to encourage us to keep the channel growing in crafting more compelling design contents. My name is Alex Lee and I am from Design Seek. Thank you for watching.